the day my mom died. I thought I had already lost everything, but I was wrong. Because later that night, while I was sitting alone in her bedroom, I found something hidden behind her mirror. An old envelope. Yellowed, sealed, forgotten, with my name written on it in handwriting I had never seen before. My hands started shaking before I even opened it, because deep down, I knew this wasn't just anything. It was from my dad, a man I had never met, a man my mom never talked about, and somehow she had kept this hidden from me my entire life. I grew up without a father, not just physically, but completely. There were no photos, no stories, no memories passed down. It was like he never existed. Anytime I asked about him, my mom would shut it down instantly. "It's better this way," she'd say. And that was it. No explanation, no details, just silence. At first, I kept asking. As a kid, you don't understand boundaries like that. You just want to know where you came from. But every time I brought it up, I'd see that look on her face. Not anger, not exactly sadness either. Just something heavy. Something that told me I shouldn't push it. So eventually, I stopped. I told myself it didn't matter. That whatever happened between them, it must have been bad enough for her to keep it buried. And honestly, I didn't want to hurt her by digging into something she clearly wanted to forget. She raised me on her own. Worked long hours. Made sacrifices I didn't fully understand back then. She was strong, independent, always there when I needed her. So I never questioned her choices. I trusted her, completely. Over time, I convinced myself I didn't need answers. That not knowing was easier than finding out something painful. And for years, I lived with that. No father, no past, no questions. Just the life she built for us. Until the day she was gone. Because that's when everything I thought I knew started to change. After the funeral, I went back to her house alone. Everyone else had left. The noise, the condolences, the constant presence of people, it was all gone. And for the first time, it was just me. The house felt different. Too quiet. Like everything inside it was waiting for something that was never coming back. I walked slowly through each room, not really looking for anything, just trying to hold on to whatever was left of her. Her coffee mug was still in the kitchen. A book she had been reading sat half open on the couch. Little things. Ordinary things. But now they felt heavy. I made my way to her bedroom. That was the hardest part. Because that's where everything still felt the most like her. The bed neatly made. Her clothes still in the closet. The faint scent of her perfume in the air. I sat down for a moment, just staring at nothing. Trying to process the fact that she was really gone. That there would be no more conversations. No more chances to ask questions I had avoided my whole life. And that thought lingered longer than anything else. The questions. The ones I never asked. The ones I chose to ignore. Especially the one about my father. I shook my head slightly, trying to push it away. It didn't matter anymore, I told myself. Whatever the truth was, it was too late now. But something in that room felt off. I don't know what it was at first. Just a small detail that didn't sit right. Then I noticed the mirror on her dresser. It was slightly tilted. Not broken. Not out of place in an obvious way. Just different. Like it had been moved. I stared at it for a few seconds. My mom was always careful about things like that. Everything had its place. Everything was neat. So why would it be like this? I stood up slowly and walked over to it. My heart started beating a little faster, for no real reason I could explain. I reached out and adjusted the mirror slightly, and that's when I felt it. Something behind it. Thin, flat, hidden. I froze for a second, then carefully reached around the back. My fingers brushed against paper. An envelope, carefully placed where no one would casually find it, like it was meant to stay hidden. My breath caught as I pulled it out, because even before I looked at it closely, I knew this wasn't just something random. This was something she never wanted me to see. I stood there for a moment, just staring at the envelope in my hands. It felt fragile, like something that had been hidden for so long, it wasn't meant to be touched. The paper was slightly worn, edges soft from time. But what made my chest tighten wasn't the envelope itself. It was the name written on it. My name. Slowly, carefully written, in handwriting I didn't recognize. I turned it over, checking if there was anything else. No return address. No explanation. Nothing. Just my name. And somehow, that made it heavier. Because it meant this wasn't random. This was meant for me. My hands started to shake slightly as I held it. I glanced around the room, almost instinctively, like someone might walk in and stop me. But there was no one. Just silence. The same silence that had followed me ever since the funeral. I sat down on the edge of the bed, the envelope still in my hands. For a second, I thought about putting it back, sliding it behind the mirror again, pretending I never found it. Because opening it meant one thing: whatever truth was inside, I couldn't ignore it anymore. And a part of me wasn't ready for that. Not yet. Not like this. But another part of me, the part that had spent years wondering, wouldn't let it go. Because this could be it. The answer to the one question I had buried my entire life. Who was my father? And why was he never there? I ran my fingers along the edge of the envelope. Took a slow breath. Then finally, I broke the seal. The sound was quiet, but it felt loud in that empty room. Like something permanent had just been set in motion. I carefully pulled out the paper inside. It was folded neatly. Old, but preserved. Like it had been protected all these years. I hesitated for one last second, staring at it. Because deep down, I already knew whatever I was about to read was going to change everything. I unfolded the letter slowly. My hands were shaking now, not just a little, but enough that I had to study the paper before I could even start reading. At the top, there was a date. The day I was born. My chest tightened instantly. And then I saw the first line. Dear my child. I stopped for a second. Just those 3 words, and something inside me shifted. I had never heard his voice, never seen his face. But suddenly, he felt real. I took a breath and kept reading. He wrote about the day I was born. About holding me for the first time. About how small I was, how scared he felt, and how somehow, in that moment, he already loved me more than anything. Each line felt honest, raw, not like someone pretending. Like someone who meant every word. He said he wished things were different. That he wanted to be there, to watch me grow up, to be part of my life. But then the tone changed. Subtly at first, then clearly. He started talking about leaving. About not having a choice. About how sometimes life forces you into decisions you never wanted to make. I felt my grip tighten on the paper. Because this didn't sound like the story I had built in my head all these years. This didn't sound like a man who walked away. This sounded like someone who was pushed out. Then I reached the part that made my heart stop. If you're reading this, it means I never got the chance to be in your life, and that wasn't my choice. I stared at that line. Read it again. And again. Not his choice? Then whose was it? My mind started racing. All those years my mom refused to talk about him, all those times she shut down every question. It wasn't just pain. It was something else. Something she didn't want me to know. I kept reading. He wrote that he tried to stay. Tried to fight for me. But something or someone made it impossible. He didn't explain everything. But he didn't need to. Because by then, the message was clear. Everything I believed growing up was incomplete. Maybe even wrong. The man I thought didn't care had written me a letter full of love. And the person I trusted the most had hidden it from me for 34 years. I lowered the paper slowly, staring at nothing, trying to breathe, trying to understand how one letter could change everything I thought I knew about my own life. I kept reading, even though part of me wanted to stop. Because with every line, the truth was getting harder to ignore. Near the end of the letter, his words changed again. They became more direct, more urgent. If things were different, I would have stayed, he wrote. I would have watched you grow up. I would have been there for every moment. My chest tightened as I read on. But sometimes, love isn't enough when someone else is determined to keep you away. I froze. Someone else? The words felt heavy in my mind. There was no name, no direct accusation. But it didn't need one. Because deep down, I already understood. I flipped the page slightly, my hands trembling now more than before. He wrote about trying to come back. Trying to reach out. Trying to be part of my life, even from a distance. But every attempt failed. Every door closed. I don't know what you've been told about me, the letter said. But I hope one day you'll know. I never stopped loving you. I had to stop reading for a second. My vision blurred. Not from tears at first, but from the weight of it all hitting at once. Because this wasn't just a letter anymore. This was proof. Proof that the story I had lived with for 34 years wasn't the full truth. I looked around the room, at the same walls I grew up with, at the same space where my mom had built our life. And suddenly, it felt different. Not fake, not empty, but incomplete. Like there was a whole part of my story that had been hidden right in front of me. I went back to the letter, my hands steadier now, but my heart heavier. The final lines were simple. If you ever find this, just know that I was there in the beginning, and I would have stayed if I had the choice. I let the paper fall slightly in my hands, and in that moment, everything became clear. My dad didn't disappear. He was removed. And my mom, the person I trusted more than anyone, was the one who made sure he stayed gone. I didn't know why. I didn't know what really happened between them. But I knew one thing for sure. The truth I had lived with all my life wasn't the truth at all. And now, there was no way to go back to not knowing. I sat there for a long time after finishing the letter. The room was quiet, but my mind wasn't. Every memory, every belief, every assumption I had about my life was shifting. Not completely breaking, but changing in a way I couldn't undo. I looked down at the letter again, at the words written by someone I had spent my entire life not knowing. And yet, in just a few pages, he felt more real than ever before. Not a stranger, not an absence, but a person. Someone who had wanted to be there, someone who tried. And for the first time, I didn't feel angry at him. I felt something else. Understanding. And maybe a little grief for what could have been. I glanced around the room one more time, at the house my mom had built for us, the life she gave me. And I realized something important. People can love you and still keep things from you. They can protect you and still take something away. I don't know if I'll ever fully understand why she did it. But I do know this. That letter didn't just tell me about my father. It gave me a truth I was never meant to find. And once you see the truth, you can't unsee it.